Hey everybody, movie review next door here, and back with another movie review. Sorry, it's been a couple days, had rough sleep schedule, and I'm back with something a friend requested, and it was Ichi the Killer. This is a horror crime film from 2001, directed by Takashi Miike, and it stars Tadanobu Asano, Nao Omori, and Shinya Tsukamoto and Paulin's son. In this film, as sadomasochistic Yakuza enforcer Kakihara searches for his missing boss, he comes across Ichi, a repressed and psychotic killer who may be able to inflict levels of pain that Kakihara has only dreamed of. So, what did I think of Ichi the Killer? No. I've had a bit of a rocky relationship with this director. I don't get into that, but I hated this. Like, I'm okay with ultra violence. I really don't give a shit how violent a movie is. A movie I recently watched, Life After Fighting, was pretty fucking violent, and but there was a point to it. I was enjoying the choreography, massively enjoying the choreography. Wishing it wasn't as long a movie, condensed it down a bit more to be a bit more of a fast-paced martial arts movie. But like this this movie just it reminds me of everything I hate about shock cinema, and I'll get to that. But let me get to the cast first. Uh, Tadanobu Sano plays Kakihara. He's a Yakuza boss. He's been in a lot of films. He's apparently been in 138 films. He was in uh the first three Thor movies. He was in the series Shogun, which I've heard great things about. Silence, Mortal Kombat. Who did he play in the newest Mortal Kombat movie? Apparently he played Raiden, which that's cool. Um, Midway, 47 Ronin, mostly Japanese films. Um, I don't think he did a bad job. I just think this character is just so one note that it kind of wastes him because I've probably seen this guy before. I just can't remember what I saw him in. I have seen the first two Thor movies, but I don't remember much about them. But I don't think he's bad here. Nao Omori plays Ichi, who's been in a lot of Takashi Miike's films. Um, I don't really know what to say about him. He's there. His acting isn't great. I don't think any of the acting is amazing in this. Um, which is a surprise since I've really loved the acting in some of Miike's films. And I'll get to that. Shinya Tsukamoto plays Gigi. This is Ichi's father, who was a former cop, I think, but the characters get so muddled, I kind of mixed up people with other people. He was okay. Let me, right off the bat, Takashi Miike. I've seen quite a few of his films. I've seen, uh, let me looking through here, Audition, which for a while I considered my favorite horror film. My favorite horror film is now Flatliners, but I still do massively respect what he did in Audition. Eiji Shina's terrifying performance. Um, Also the performance of Ryo Ishibashi, I think is a very commendable one. Um, One Missed Call, which I like the concept, but the movie feels very thinly stretched with its plot. As the Gods Will, I thought was a hell of a fun film, but could have been cut down. It's 2 hours and doesn't need to be. Um, what else? I could have sworn there was another movie I'd seen of his. But yeah, like I've seen a decent amount of this guy's films, and I know he's a very well respected Japanese director, but I hated, hated watching this. Now, Audition has kind of a similar thing to it. Audition has multiple scenes of gross shit happening, be it gore or, I mean, there's a scene of a character throwing up and everything. The movie is knows what it is, and I think it's very creepy in what it's doing. I like the kind of well, I mean, if you hear about it from people, they're gonna spoil a lot of things, but like it's still an experience nonetheless. It will leave an impression on you. This seems like it learned all the wrong things from Audition, where mo most of this movie is just watch horrible people do horrible things. And I find those movies very hard to watch. Not because I'm disturbed, because this movie didn't disturb me. A lot of people talk like back when it came out, apparently people in certain theaters had barf bags. I don't think I'd ever barf because of watching this. Well, mostly because I've seen a lot of shit. But there are movies that still get me to flinch, and there are still movies that gross me out, and it works in the for the story of the film. The issue is this film has no story really. The most of a story you get is Kakihara, who is on the poster, and it's called Ichi the Killer, even though Ichi isn't the. I mean, Ichi is a killer. Both of them are. But Kakihara is kind of the main character, but kind of not. It's one of those movies where nobody is really well built up enough to be called the main character. Um, and he hears about this guy that can inflict levels of pain nobody ever knew was possible, and he basically kind of seeks him out. And apparently, it had something to do with the disappearance of his boss. And that's all the plot you get. This film does not have some overarching, actually interesting plot to follow. It's a lot of just and I know I'm gonna sound like a dumbass saying this, given that I like a lot of ultraviolent action movies, but those action movies usually had a decent plot, had characters that you can follow. The entire point of this film being made is that you never like any of the characters. Takashi Miike on purpose made this film in that way, that you don't want to side with either character because you have one side, Kakihara, who is a sadist, a sadomasochist. He likes inflicting pain and likes pain being inflicted on him, but also there's something about him I forgot, but like there's nothing really to his character. And then um, Ichi is a hitman working for one side of the Yakuza who whenever he gets sexually aroused, he whenever he sees violence, he's sexually aroused. And a little warning for what I'm about to describe here. The main thing that happens with this character is that he meets a prostitute that he was spying on being slapped around, beaten up, and assaulted. Leaves after pleasuring himself outside of the window and leaving you know, and the title card comes out of that. He later comes back, sees that happening again after she wishes somebody would kill him, kills him. The Ichi kills him, gets aroused, walks towards her. She tries to hit him with a baseball bat, and then he kills her. This is the most story-wise that this character gets. Because at first you're thinking, oh, he actually saved her. It's still disgusting that he was pleasuring himself while watching her being assaulted and attacked. But maybe they're trying to do something. No. So the entire reason of this movie is misery. And it goes into something I like to call misery porn, which is a subgenre of movies I've created. Or I mean, I don't know if I've created the term misery porn, but it's where a movie you think, oh, maybe at some point there's going to be some relief or something that I care about to happen, and it never comes. It's just endless misery for no reason other than to be endless misery. And I find those films annoying to watch, and this film I found very annoying to watch. Um, it's to the point where I don't understand what people see in this film other than it being ultra violent. Like most of the quotes that I see talking about this movie are, if you like violence, watch this movie. But that's the thing, most of the violence in this film is CGI. Most of the big scale violent scenes are CGI. A character getting uh, stabbed in the head is CGI. A character getting sliced in half is CGI. A character getting sliced in the neck at one point is CGI. There's a character that gets poked through the bottom of the mouth. There's CGI blood. Um, the opening scene, one of the opening scenes has CGI blood all over the walls and the floor because I'm guessing they had to rent that place so they could only do so much in there. And for a movie like oh yeah, there's a big scene where Ichi runs into a room in a building and you see really fucking bad CGI. Like, oh my God. I know it's 2001, it's still kind of early in CGI, but like you see the worst looking CGI blood and guts and everything flying out of the room and it's like this sucks to watch because not even the CG, not even the gore could be interesting or fun. And most of and there's like so many instances of where the gore is just, oh, like a woman gets her nipple sliced off and I'm like, why is this like, this film just feels mean. It doesn't feel like there's a purpose to it other than to be like, hey, this is what you expected, you're getting this. A kid even gets beheaded off screen in this film. Yeah, it feels like one of those movies that's trying to one up itself. And where I can't compare it to Audition, I think Audition did a lot better switching from the kind of ominous tone of what was happening in the main plot to the straight up batshit insanity of the last 20 minutes of the film, I think. Like I think that film did it a ton better because this film, the entire film, it's like scene after scene of just nasty, like a character cutting the end of his tongue off. Oh, this prostitute getting beaten around and then her neck throat slit. This guy's head is in a TV and he has a bunch of metal rods through his face, and it's just like this is not entertaining. I was kind of bored, to be perfectly honest. And before anybody says it, it's not because the film's in Japanese. I like quite a few Japanese films. One of my favorites, Battle Royale, is in Japanese. But that film, whenever it did violent shit, that like they actually built up a lot of the characters. I thought it was interesting that they chose to do like I think it was a high school doing all of this, and that kind of made it a bit more. It made the stakes feel a bit different because every movie like that would be like, oh yeah, we've got adults doing this in a death game, and it's one of the original death game movies, and I think it's one of the best examples of a film that's very simple and the execution is very well done. I think Ryuhei Kitamura I think is the director of that film. Um, but let me make sure there. Oh my God, Ryuhei Kinemura. Oh my God, I got that completely wrong. So, Kinji Fukasaku. Like I really enjoyed how that film was directed and everything. And even when there was CGI blood in that film, I think they did a good enough job making it seem like still pretty violent. It felt it didn't feel as fake as it could have been. But anyways, this film just feels like endless violence and torture for no real goal. And that's kind of how I felt with certain parts of Old Boy as well. The bits with the teeth, um, at the twist at the end, I'm not a fan of that. And I think Lady Vengeance is miles better than Old Boy for that specific reason, in that it actually went with just a normal story. It didn't try to be disgusting for the sake of it, and it felt rewarding. And this film does not feel rewarding to me. I have so many issues with it. Um, like, well, first off, again, the runtime, 2 hours and 9 minutes, is just way too long for this plot. It's not nearly as interesting as it thinks it is. It's again, there's barely a plot. A lot of scenes go on for way too long, especially scenes of torture. Like, I don't know if they're trying to play it for comedy, but it just feels like there's not enough story here, so they're overextending scenes. And again, it would probably flow a lot better if it wasn't 2 hours and 9 minutes. Um, uh, again, I think scenes of violence can work to shock the audience and have some stakes within the plot, but when it's like when it goes on for so long, kind of like with Terrifier, where most of the movies was like an excuse to show off practical effects, and the gore scenes went on for so fucking long. I'm like, okay, it's a really good effect, but you keep holding on it, and I feel like you just don't have enough story, and that's what it feels like here. Uh, the score by Carrera Music and Seiichi Yamamoto. Apparently, they're from a band called called Boredoms or Vordoms. They have like 50 names. Is really irritating to listen to. Most of it is like kind of jazzy drums, like or there's a bit where somebody does like clicking with their tongue, or like, what did I write it down as? Freaking, yeah, it was like tongue sounds, like jazzy drums during scenes. I was like, why do we have a Birdman soundtrack for this film? And it never like moved along with the scene. It never felt like it was scored to the movie. It felt like a random song from a really weird avant-garde album that they just plopped into the movie. Oh yeah, and the progressive rock that doesn't feel like it has a time signature. It feels like somebody's just going like throughout the entire movie, and it's horrible to listen to. Um, again, the CGI was horribly done, and makes the film look so fucking cheap. And this film already doesn't have a ton of locations, but at least Audition, I felt, had the camera work to like make the film feel less cheap than it could have felt. And the editing is weird at times. The editing, especially in the beginning, I thought my version of the movie on Tubi fucked up because there's bits where the slow-mo, like it has that weird audio distortion thing when you slow down audio that's not high enough quality. Or it's like when you stretch out audio and then stretch it back in editing software or something, it's just sounded really bad. And the editing of certain scenes where you'll hear the same sounds over and over because they don't cut it at the right time for the other camera. So you get overlap of audio. A lot of it just felt very amateurish. Uh, the one thing I can give this film is that it looks okay, but and again, I don't hate fucking Tadanobu Asano as Kakihara. I don't hate him. I think he's trying, but I don't think he has much of a character to play. But yeah, overall, I just was not into this film. I hope people understand. Again, I'm fine with like kind of shocking movies, but like this just had no real point to me. Somebody's probably going to tell me about how I miss subtext, but I mean, go ahead if you want. But yeah, um, that was my review of Ichi the Killer. If you've seen the film, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put them down there as well. And movie reviewer next door out.